Yeah, I just seen the Breakfast Club. Jimmy be popping all that. I be seeing you, Jimmy talking about we Gucci boo boo. He in the Gucci store. Talking about we Gucci boo boo. The Black King they was going you up. Jimmy, they was like, Marita Monero.
He ran with the same person I did 10 years prior to our meeting. Over there, Jim Jones and the Dipset were singing and dancing for ages. Kano Shati, Jordan, and Jim Jones were jogging, right? Mel Matrix, Yal Jones, and Roland Martin. He was Fubanger's manager. His last name, Fuan, escapes me. Fuquan, he was running with all the cats. 50 Cent will not stop informants from spreading information about Jim Jones. And now he's back. Wreaking havoc and dragging Jimmy through the mud with what he calls receipts. Loud, haphazard, and cunning. It's a vintage 50. If you've been following the blogs and street rumors, you already know that Jim Jones has been avoiding those major snitch rumors for years. It all started when his name became finished the trial of Tekashi 69 after the wiretap revealed that he was allegedly preparing an attack on 6ix9ine. But as the federal officers beat up the 9 Trey Bloods, Jimmy was able to get away safely. That's why everyone was giving each other side eyes. Even though he was caught on tape talking about real gang business, why was he never charged? Now, fast forward. Jim Jones and Cameron are already involved in a heated online argument, where they are insulting each other with direct shots and subs. The king of petty, 50 Cent, showed up with new receipts just as Jimmy thought things couldn't get much worse. According to 50, Jones has been an undercover FBI informant for years, working covertly with the same system that killed his colleagues.
Like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. You gotta watch and see how he responds. Did you see? He was funny. I thought it was funny when he said, but I didn't think it'd be a big deal because you make up with every nigga that put hands on you. But I see the pattern now. If you agree to disagree with you and don't want to take it that route because they got some genuine love for you, you keep going.
But here's the real kicker. Where is the actual proof? Does Jimmy work for the federal government in reality? Or are there just 50 buttons being punched for revenge and power? More importantly, what was Jim's reaction to the harsh public criticism of 50? This time, the stress in the troughs is leaking out and it feels far too intimate. If you know the history of Dipset, you already know that Cameron and Jim Jones have been on a wild ride. They were brothers one day, bitter rivals the next, and now their tumultuous history is surfacing again. The wild energy of 50 Cent keeps throwing gasoline in the meantime. So what was the reason for this latest drama? Cameron just discussed a subject that has been plaguing him since 2007 with 50 Cent on his show. He brought up the fact that during Dipset's ugly altercation with G-Unit, Jim Jones had unexpectedly attended one of 50's performances. 50 people had a lot to say about that bold move. However, Jimmy was not going to keep quiet. He graciously continued to Justin Loy's program to express his viewpoint. He claimed that he had no regrets about rushing the stage with 50 at the time and that rap. Politics would not stop him from generating money. But Jimmy didn't stop there. He reprimanded 50 and Cam for bringing up his name.
Jimmy was not a rapper then.
Right.
He was your man, like on the side, just he was not a rapper at all.
Right.
So when Ballin' took place, and I'm looking and I'm going, oh, he having a moment. That's the Lloyd Banks. It's Lloyd Banks thing. He wanted that. He was watching them be that, like Mace be that, and Cam be that, and looked at, and it was finally he had one.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked, and I knew.
They both owe him important favors. He even went so far as to say he subsequently intensified his efforts to assert full responsibility for developing Dipset's entire identity, claiming to have inspired Cam's famous drip and even making him wear the recognizable pink fur coat that is still spoken about today. Naturally, Cam was not going to ignore it. He firmly retorted to his and Mace's podcast. He really went out of his way for Jimmy, to put it mildly. When Cam questioned Jim's entire die-pet origin story, he didn't simply clap back. Unlike Jones, he was never a real day one who rode with him in the trenches, and he accused Jimmy of lying about coming from Harlem, bragging. According to Cam, the entire "we grew up together" narrative is absurd. Furthermore, Cam refuted Jimmy's story, according to which he had followed May's son Cam after joining Diddy's Bad Boy. Cam refused to accept it. Cam had already put in a lot of work as a member of the well-known Harlem ensemble Children of the Corn with Maze, Big L, and Brother Bloodshed, he said, and Jim didn't show up until much later. Then, by emphasizing that Mace was the one who taught Jimmy how to rap, Cam gave the impression that Jones was simply a young friend attempting to join the group. And for someone like Jim, who takes pride in his street cred, that must have been really painful. But Jimmy wasn't going to keep quiet about it. When Cam let him vent, he didn't even spend time talking. He hinted at a reworking of his Harlem song while still prominently representing his block. And he brought back to established legends, namely Gucci, along with Dave East Vado and Jules Santana. Jimmy didn't explain, but everyone knew what it meant. A sly response aimed straight at Cam. The streets quickly began to spread the word, and the animosity abruptly escalated. 50 Cent abruptly returned to raise trouble again, just as it seemed like the fire would finally go out.
Just took the shot, murder, to see, because I wasn't sure he was going to go for it. But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. Then you got to watch and see how he responds. And then when you see, he like, oh, like that. Hey, give me this. Get me Jimmy. Yeah, tell him we want him. We want you at the show, Jimmy.
This time, he wasn't even talking about music. He revived the public interest in the dubious informant rumors surrounding Jim Jones. On Instagram, a photo of Jimmy with Jay-Z, Diddy, and Fat Joe went viral. "Lol, individual one calling the shots out here," he wrote. And then he lit up the internet. "I know you're working, individual one, so don't talk to me." The shade was so loud that fans soon grasped what 50 was implying. Was a direct allusion to the ongoing suspicion that Jimmy was an FBI informant during Tekashi 6ix9ine's controversial trial. Jim was allegedly heard saying that 6ix9ine was no longer a gang member in a wiretapped phone call that came to light during the time when 6ix9ine was on trial for spying on his 9 Trey Bloods teammates. His rights must have been infringed.
Benefit me because seem like you won't want to see nobody else win.
Right.
And I need to win. I got to win in spirit.
So,
You heard? I didn't put all this work in for nothing. You dig? I didn't teach myself how to rap for nothing. I didn't jump all on this game to be famous for nothing. I need to capitalize and be just as famous as the most famous, most successful, rich person in this game also. I'm now in the game.
I still gotta know, like, how did that work? You performing, like,
They call me like, yo, you want to come out and perform at the show?
Of course. 50 also ensured that the actual phone transcript was released to the public. For context, in 2018, Tekashi 69 and 9 other members of a trade syndicate were charged with federal racketeering and firearms offenses, one of the most feared blood sets in New York. The rap industry was profoundly offended by that case, which exposed street links and brought well-known individuals into government databases. Furthermore, it is now being used like ammo by 50s, which supports the idea that Jimmy may have been working with the federal government all along. The federal government has been putting up a case on 9 Treys for years. In order to shorten his sentence, 6ix9ine promptly folded and turned full government witness when he finally slipped. By September 2019, he was identifying individuals one by one as he went on his infamous snitching binge in that courtroom. He testified against his former 90 members, including Anthony Harv Ellison, Jeremiah, Nuke Mac, and numerous others, and gave the court extensive knowledge on gang operations that endangered other individuals. But for Jim Jones, this was the turning point. His name entered the proceedings through wiretap recordings. During 6ix9ine's testimony, tapes were aired that allegedly showed Jimmy mixing it up with another 9-tray heavyweight, Jamal Melmorta Jones. Jim tried to quit the gang during the conversations, and it sounded like he was preparing his next move around 6ix9ine. According to the Fed's own tape, Jimmy said that 6ix9ine must be broken. Many saw that as approval. To harm the rainbow-haired rapper, the rap game and the streets were rocked by that recording for 2 basic reasons.
Okay.
For the diplomats. You heard? Dan and Cam's pink. You heard? He'd tell.
Nah.
All right. Sooner or later, he gonna have to tell it. Where he got the pink from.
And push me under the bus and say, I ain't start this and I ain't do that, and you started pink and you made the diplomats, which is just, if people choose to believe that, then look, I got a Brooklyn bridge.
It showed that Jimmy had direct ties to 9 prominent trade members, not just a few informal contacts. Second, if Jim was caught on a federal wiretap allegedly discussing retaliation, it raised the important question of why he was never indicted. Others were imprisoned, but Jones was released. This has led to ongoing speculation over whether he is truly working for the federal government. Both supporters and critics called for immediate answers after the trial. Despite the fact that the top 9 Trey members spent years behind bars, how could Jim Jones get caught up in such a major federal investigation and get away with it? At that point, there were serious rumors that Jimmy might have been working as a confidential informant and secretly negotiating with the federal government to avoid being prosecuted. And the loudest voice disseminating that rumor was none other than Clack 100. Claiming that Jimmy was already cooperating behind closed doors and that this is why he was never put in jail after the wiretap. He openly accused Jim of being a federal agent. Whack doubled down everywhere. Clubhouse spaces, podcasts, and even interviews with 6ix9ine, who boldly pushed Jim Jones to prove he wasn't working covertly with the police. Now, Jimmy was not going to ignore it. He denied everything when he got back and accused Whack of being a clout chaser and an obvious liar, who was merely trying to harm his reputation. But here's the catch. Jim removed the informant label, but he never fully explained why he wasn't arrested after being found on those wiretaps. And because of that silence, the streets kept humming louder. Even now, there is no proof that Jim Jones was an informant. His identity was never mentioned as a cooperating witness, and there is no public record of him testifying or helping law enforcement. But why he skated free while others were brutally beaten is still a mystery. Jim was never charged, which means there are still a lot of unanswered questions. Jimmy instantly clapped back, so 50 Cent must have touched a nerve. He replied by calling out 54 being untrustworthy, and even posted a chic picture of himself at the pool along with the comment, "Why do you keep lying, lol? I'm going back to sleep," he concluded, brushing the whole thing aside. Male, free Matrix 2. It's reversed. But here's the problem. No matter how much Jim disputes such informant allegations, many fans just don't trust him. Every time the topic is brought up again, the same question is asked. How could Jimmy get away with it when almost all 9 of the other Trey members were captured? And because 50 people are constantly trolling and bringing up the subject, the fire won't go out. Internet users are even posting fan theories. Someone stated, Jim Jones, a high-ranking gang member, essentially ordered a hit on someone by telling his cousin, another high-ranking gang member. He was not arrested, but the person he instructed was. No, friend, Denmark has an unpleasant stink. 6ix9ine let the world know that there were a lot more snitches, but it didn't appear like anyone was listening. Jimmy may laugh it off at the pool, but the streets aren't laughing. The questions are continuing, and the side glances are not slowing down. Because despite his repeated denials, many are interested as to why he is the only one who skated free. How did Jimmy get out when everyone else was in jail? 50 Cent's persistent trolling and upkeep of these rumors demonstrate that this problem isn't going away anytime soon. The same argument is still emphasized by supporters. High-ranking gang member Jim Jones told his cousin, another high-ranking gang member, to essentially order a hit on someone, a person said. The person he told was arrested, but he was not. No, man. Denmark has an unpleasant odor. 6ix9ine In let everyone know that there were no one wanted to listen, but there were a few more snitches. Not at this moment. The streets are bustling more than ever, and the questions aren't going away. Is Jim Jones really hiding something? Or is this just another case of 50 setting off alarms? How about Dipset? Do you believe Cameron and Jim can ever reconcile their tense brotherhood? Or is Dipset over for good? How do you feel about 50 Cent reviving allegations of former informants? Make sure you hit the like button, share with a friend, subscribe, and comment with your thoughts so you don't miss the next wild breakdown.